Dutch people are like everywhere. I remember talking to somebody there, and he could tell you like a Dutch person in every field of anything you wanted to ever know. So he's like, the person who did this, yep, he was a Dutch person. Or the person who did this, yep, he was related to a Dutch person. You did this, like the Dutch people have done like so much, and especially since I've come back and I've learned a lot about like science, a lot about different kinds of stuff. They really are everywhere. The Dutch people are so they're intuitive. They're very they have a history of being very good in scientific places. Like Antony van Leeuwenhoek was the first person to like observe like bacteria and all that kind of stuff. And so they're just very involved in world history and like kind of groundbreaking stuff. The first impression that I had of the Netherlands is that it's just a beautiful country. They do a lot to keep that country like really well cleaned and really well upkept, and it shows. There's flowers on the highways, there's flowers in the streets and stuff like that. It's a beautiful place to even just drive around, let alone like go to like their nature places. We went on a couple, just little nature walks every now and then, and it's just incredible how many trees there are. I'm from Las Vegas, so like going from the absolute desert to a place where like there's moss and they have special tools to get moss out from in between your sidewalk little cracks, because there's so much life and so much greenery there. It was just a very big like, whoa, this is incredible. I love the Netherlands because it's so pretty and so beautiful. I remember I accidentally threw something away in like the wrong trash can, and like Dutch people and Belgian people are like devout when it comes to recycling, and the guy actually like took the trash out of the trash can and threw it back at me and was like, "You put this in the right thing." And I was like, oh my gosh, like, all right, jeez. It was like super funny in that sense. Whenever we'd put our recycling outside or whatever in the right bins, or sometimes we'd not do it perfectly right, and our neighbors would like come and be like, "Hey man, you got to put your recycling in the right thing. Like, we're trying to save the planet here." And I was like, whoa, okay, this is not something I'm used to. It was really funny. My favorite thing about Dutch people is just how honest they are and how truthful they are to you. Especially coming home from it and seeing this big difference of people who, are kind of willing to beat around the bush to tell you something, whereas Dutch people will just tell you straight up, like, "Hey, like, I don't like this." Or, you ask them, like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Instead of saying, "Oh, good," they'll say, "It's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty terrible." And they'll, like, tell you why it was terrible. Or they'll say, like, "Man, this is some weird weather we're having." Like, "Yeah, awful weather. Hate it. It's terrible." And they'll talk for it for a while. It's like, I love how honest they are about their feelings. It's like, it's something that that I really appreciated while I was there, and I've tried to kind of keep, not necessarily like the bluntness of everything, but just being honest with myself and with other people about like how I feel. At least since I've come home, that's something I've tried to keep up, and I feel like it's made me a lot of like living there and living around that culture has made me into kind of the person that I am today in that sense, which is interesting. I love it. One of the differences in lifestyle there is, their buildings are a little narrower. Stairs are significantly narrower than they are in the U.S. I just remember almost falling down a couple flights of stairs every now and then because, I didn't grab the handrail every now and then. I'm always just like falling over almost. From what I understood and what I saw, a lot of people live in a lot closer quarters, like especially in places like Rotterdam, where the architecture is a little bit. There are some areas where it's older, some areas where it's newer because of World War II and everything. But there are big lines of streets of apartments where apartments are like really skinny but tall, and so they're willing to take less floor space this way than to have a little bit more upward space, which I think is kind of interesting. Something I thought was really interesting when I first came to the Netherlands was talking to people about their average workday. I didn't know this actually when I first came here, but like the U.S. just has like a really long work week, I guess. And so we were talking to one of our someone that we were gonna go talk to, and he said, "Oh man, I don't know if I can meet with you guys soon, just because I'm working 40 hours a week. It's a lot." And I'm sitting there like, we work 40 hours a week every week in the U.S. What are you talking about? And so as I kept talking to lots of people, I realized that just isn't, it's not the expectation. And it's definitely not the norm for many people in the Netherlands or even in Europe to work, those long hour weeks as it is to them. I like since read a statistic, and I think that the average work week in Europe is something like 25 to 30 hours, which is really interesting to me. They give a lot more time for vacation, which, they love. and they've done lots of studies that it's good for your mental health and really good for your health overall. So it's an interesting like difference in culture in Europe as opposed to the United States, which I really didn't know about until I asked somebody about it. So the Netherlands is known specifically for its cheese. So like you think of Gouda cheese, it's pronounced Gouda, but that's where Gouda cheese comes from. Is like there's a city called Gouda, which I got to serve near. In reality, they're known for their dairy products. So Dutch milk is really popular, as well as cheese. One of the ones that we ate a ton while we were in the Netherlands is stamppot, which is just it is mashed potatoes with pretty much anything you can think of thrown in there. There's different ones that's like rodenkool, which is like red cabbage. They put red cabbage and a bunch of different stuff in there. There's other ones that sometimes they'll put pineapple and other kind of stuff and make it a little sweeter. You put like often nuts and like gravy and stuff on it. It's really, really hearty and super good for like a cold day in the Netherlands, which in the winter happens decently often. And that was actually one of my favorite things to eat there. As often as we ate it, sometimes you can eat things a lot and be like, oh, okay, we have this again. But every time we had it, I was just so excited. I love stamppot. Other things that are really good there are, I actually really liked the haring, like the fish. You see a lot of people where you like dangle the fish in front of your face and eat it. I actually really liked that. I wouldn't say that I would like go specifically to get the haring, but they have these little fish vendors that are just like little carts that they kind of take around. And one of the things that I loved getting from those fish vendors is something called kibbeling. It's just like fried cod, I guess. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but that was one of my favorite things to get is kibbeling and that fried fish, along with they have doner there from people like Turkish people, and like the Middle Eastern people have you can sometimes have doner shops there that are something that I miss a lot still. I love doner, and I loved being able to have it so readily available. Whereas here you go to shawarma shops and they're super expensive sometimes, and they're not as traditional as maybe something in the Netherlands where you get it straight from someone who's from that exact country. I'd say the craziest food that I ever had is something called fufu. Fufu is made by people in Africa, especially Western Africa, to my understanding. I had it from a lot of different people from Nigeria, people from Ghana, and I loved it. Fufu is really good. It's just very different. So it's like eating soup with your hands. So they like create this pounded yam. So it's just this thing of like yam dough in broth, and you can pick up the yam dough and pick up some of the soup with it. I had it made with pumpkin seeds, which was really good. Pumpkin seeds and fish. Other times it was just kind of like a spicier tomato broth with fish and stuff like that. Lots of it had to do with fish, but I loved fufu. It was like super different for me to eat because it's like this giant thing of yam. I don't even know what you'd call it. It's just this big thing of fufu is all we would like call it. And so it's really good, just very different, very interesting. Ik wil jullie bedanken voor de goede herinneringen die ik in Nederland gehad heb. Ik ben zo dankbaar dat ik jullie mocht leren kennen en van jullie mocht leren. Ik hou van jullie en ik hoop dat ik terug mag komen straks. En ik ben echt dankbaar voor jullie voorbeelden en dat ik heel veel van niet alleen maar Nederland, maar de Nederlanders mocht leren. Want het heeft mij geschapen in vele gebieden in mijn leven. Ik hou van jullie en bedankt alweer.